Hello! Jessica Frost-Ballas here with the newest installment of Simon Says Stamp's Crafty Quintet. Each month I'll be sharing 5 of something crafty, and today I'm sharing my 5 favorite embellishments. My video today is a little different because I'm mainly focusing on each type of embellishment and a few of my favorite card samples, and with tips and tricks for using the embellishments rather than an actual card tutorial. But hopefully this will give you some new ideas for adding embellishments to your project, so let's get started. Here's a quick overview of the types of embellishments I'll be covering today. First are liquid drops like Nuvo drops or stickles, enamel dots or gem and pearl stickers, loose jewels and droplets, sequins, and loose glitter with crystal glaze. We'll start with liquid drops. Today I'm mostly focusing on Nuvo products, but there are a bunch of other similar products available. I love the wide range of products from Nuvo, so I tend to stick to those personally. As you can see here, I've added a few dots of each different type of drop to a piece of white cardstock and black cardstock. The crystal drops are opaque and show up easily on white or any colored cardstock. Next are the jewel drops that are tinted but transparent. They'll give you a beautiful shiny dot on your project as long as the cardstock is light colored or white. Next are the glitter drops that show up best on white cardstock, but are noticeable enough on darker cardstock due to the loose glitter in the drop. Then there's one of my favorites, plain crystal glaze that can be added to your projects to make pretty much anything shiny. Nuvo also has glow-in-the-dark drops that are quite luminescent after being exposed to light. It's hard to capture on camera as you can see here, but trust me when I say they create really cool effects for galaxy and nighttime cards. Finally are the newest drops, dream drops. They're a luminescent opaque drop that have a lot of shimmer. They almost appear to be different colors on white or black cardstock, and if you smear them you get a really neat luminescent effect. I have a few tips for getting good results with the drops. First off, I always do a test drop or two on a scrap piece of paper to get out any air bubbles to avoid burps in the bottle. Then I make sure and hold the bottle completely perpendicular to the paper to get a nice even drop. If the bottle is tilted slightly one way or another, you'll often get a lopsided drop. And when I squeeze out drops, I always make sure to release the pressure on the bottle before lifting the bottle away from the paper. This helps ensure that you won't get a little Hershey Kiss-like tail on top. Different types of drops have slightly different consistencies, so sometimes you might create a drop that isn't smooth on top. I've found that if you simply flick your finger against the backside of the cardstock, you can usually even those out. And finally, I'm usually not prepared enough to do this in advance, but I've heard that you can create drops by applying them to a craft mat, letting them dry, and then peeling off the dried drops to store for future use. Here are a few examples of cards using drops. In the first card, I'm using them to accent the Christmas tree and create an interesting texture. I'm also using crystal glaze on the star for a little extra shine. Next, I've just added a few navy blue drops to add some interest to a one-layer card. And finally, they're hard to see, but I've added tiny jewel drops around the Ferris wheel to imitate the lights on a wheel. The texture and shine of the drops really gives the scene a cool effect. When I get new drops, I like to add a drop of the color to the top of the bottle as a little swatch. It just makes it easier for me to see what it will look like when I'm choosing a color. Finally, I have one more tip for adding drops. I've heard people say that they're not sure where to put them, and so they avoid using them because they're not comfortable with the permanence of drops. I also have similar thoughts, and so over the years I've started using a scrap piece of plastic. This is actually a piece from the enamel dot packaging as a template. I place it over my card, and then I can experiment with drop placement and size before applying them directly to my card. You can easily wipe off the dot with a baby wipe and try again until you know exactly where you want to put them. Next are enamel dots and stickers. There are tons of companies that make these products, and I'm just focusing on a few that I have on hand from Waffle Flower, Honeybee Stamps, and Altenew. In general, I like to choose stickers that have a variety of color and sizes because I usually don't use all the same size embellishments on a single card. These are great when you're trying to match to an ink color from the same company, or if you're looking for something slightly flatter than a drop, or simply if you don't have time to let a drop dry. Here are a few cards using enamel dots or jewel stickers. As you can see, I also like mixing sequins, drops, and dots. On the last card, I've added splatters of white paint with 3 enamel dots. The drops add just a tiny bit of dimension, but blend nicely with the white paint. Next up is one of my favorites because I simply love glitter. I love adding accents with crystal glaze and then a mix of chunky and PRISMA glitter from Fawn. I usually add a pinch of the chunky first and then fill in the empty areas with the finer PRISMA glitter. The crystal glaze does a great job of holding the glitter so it won't flake off once it's dried. This works great for accents or larger areas, as you'll see in these cards. I feel like you can really control where the glitter goes just by adding a pinch. Generally, I'll keep the chunkier glitter to a smaller area and then fill in around with PRISMA glitter. I also love all the fabulous loose droplets, gems, and jewels that are available these days. Again, you don't need all these embellishments. You could easily pick the ones that work best for your crafting style. I'm just a magpie drawn to sparkly things. Again, many companies now carry similar products, but I love these jewels and gems from Pretty Pink Posh, Studio Katia, and Lucy's Little Things. I usually use a little precision glue or crystal glaze to adhere them to cards. They're definitely a little thicker than stickers, so keep that in mind for mailing. But they add a beautiful shimmer and sparkle to your cards. Last but certainly not least are sequins. Sequins for me are kind of my original embellishment. They come in a variety of sizes and colors, and again I tend to prefer mixing sizes for a little more interest in your projects. I'll also mix colors and finishes, matte versus gloss, depending on what I'm working on, and I also love mixing drops or glitters with the sequins. Again, there are a lot of companies with sequins, and I love those particularly from Pretty Pink Posh, Lucy's Little Things, and Simon Says Stamp. I also love the sequin and confetti mixes from Lucy's Little Things and Simon Says Stamp, as they're great for shaker cards. Finally, I wanted to talk briefly about how I choose where to place embellishments. I know there are lots of schools of thought about placement. Personally, I try to keep embellishments in odd numbers and stick to a triangular composition around a focal point on my cards. In this first example, you can see that I've mostly scattered them across the panel, but also kept them in a loose triangular shape. The second and third cards show stricter examples of keeping your embellishments in a triangular shape around your focal point, the sentiment in the first card and the flowers in the second. And my final card shows how to use embellishments as more of a focal point in your design. In this case, I'm using them to create bubbles and movement in my scene. Sure, you could skip the embellishments in any of these projects, but I really feel like they add a little something special to the finished cards. And that's it! I hope this inspires you to add embellishments to your projects. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to sharing a new Crafty Quintet with you next month. Have a fabulous day, and until next time, happy crafting! Bye!